It worked in game number 1, and Beishang happy to go for this Trundle a second time around. We are going to have a full rinse and repeat to start this draft off. My question now will be, what does eStar change up coming into game number 2? They were happy with the Aphelios. Apparently that wasn't the issue.
Yeah, I like the Aphelios pick. I want to see Wei go somewhere else in the jungle, though. Doesn't feel like that the Rek'Sai had the impact that was intended. Maybe even go towards more of a comfort pick in the Lee Sin. He has played it less this split, but known a lot more as a Lee Sin player.
For sure, we'll see if he's going to go for that. Obviously, the Jarvan taken off the board. Jarvan is the most played jungler for both of these teams, but we are going to still have this rinse and repeat draft coming on through. The Varus for Jiumeng, the Sett in the top lane. Now we see Wei bringing out that Olaf, and if you cast your minds back, this is how Wei made an entrance in the LPL. This is what he popped off on in week number 1.
The funny thing is, a lot of people consider, Trundle a counter to the Olaf, but just having enough confidence in that pick, saying, hey, I'm going to get on this, I'm going to find the early skirmishes that I need, and I just know I'm the better player.
And now we get mid lane bans coming in once again. This time, it's the Syndra that Teacherma demands that ban of. The question to me will be, does this Rumble come through at this point? Where do we go for Teacherma with the draft changing?
And eStar should feel more confident going up against that Rumble when, again, that's what Teacherma played both times in their last match when eStar won. Rumble not a champion that combos too well with Trundle because, right, we want to see things like engage, like the hot pot combo that Hysterics always talks about.
So with the bans out and ShiauC's Thresh removed once again, bear in mind, ShiauC is a player from the LMS. He trained underneath Sword Art, so you can expect that his Thresh is just immaculate. He gets respect banned away from him 70% of their games, but Cryin has played a lot of Rumble as well. They're just hovering it. They know what Teacherma looks for.
Yeah, and that's something we actually haven't mentioned yet. That's Cryan's second most played champion this split. He's played it 7 games. Teacherma's played it 8, so both very well versed on that champion, and you would think because of that, Cryin feels fine going up against it.
It's going to be ShiauC getting this Nautilus for a second time in this series. WE, I mean, why not, right? So far, so good. They won game 1, go for the same draft. It's just this mid lane that got banned out. They're going to change it up. The Rumble would be what you'd expect here from Teacherma.
I'd like to see him maybe go towards something more like
go on, lock it in. Oh, he's going for the A-Sol. For anyone at home that doesn't know Teacherma, he's known as an A-Sol main. He's known as one of the best A-Sols on the planet, probably. And we'll find out if that can be true here in the LPL playoffs.
And I like it a lot in their composition where now you kind of have a 3-line formation in your team fights with Braum and Trundle in the front, A-Sol in the middle, zoning with his passive stars, Jiumeng in the back, and Morgan, somewhere in between. Maybe if he finds a flank, he can do that. He also feels very comfortable just sitting with his carries.
We'll see how this A-Sol is going to work out. It's something that's been banned away from Teacherma in the past. And they're kind of different style champions, Syndra and A-Sol. So, Lyric,
way different.
Explain to me how this fits into the composition differently.
So A-Sol is a champion that doesn't really want to interact much in the laning phase. It's a lot more about pushing and leaving. Ever since the change to his W, though, where, it does kind of speed up and give you a bit more trading power, A-Sol players actually take Electrocute, and you do have a bit of burst in the mid lane, but it's still all about getting to your side lanes, helping out your team, enabling a player like Beishang and then Jiumeng.
And that is exactly what we've seen from Teacherma all split long. But on the other side, when it comes to the mid-jungle, we actually see Wei and Cryin going for Olaf and Rumble. When it comes to level 6, that is a lot of chase down potential. The equalizer for the slow, Olaf charging at someone, it's going to be very difficult to escape that.
Yeah, level 6, I would assume, should be eStar favored in that 2v2 if Cryin can hit a good equalizer. What I'm interested to see is how this early 2v2 pans out. We don't see much A-Sol, much less A-Sol against Rumble. Of course, Trundle has a good duel into the Olaf. A-Sol has a very strong level 1 with his stars.
I mean, let's bear in mind, while Teacherma is known for his A-Sol, he's only actually played it 3 times this split. So it's still not a pick that is super prevalent here in the LPL. We'll see if it's going to be able to change things up going into game number 2 of this series between WE and eStar. Game number 2 begins here. And we have, once again, WE on that blue side, eStar on the red side. The newest team in the LPL in eStar, taking on the old guard, the oldest organization in the LPL for Team WE.
I like that this time around we don't see Wink hovering around the bot side river like we did last game, so not going to get punished this time around.
Yeah, no more bot lane shenanigans here. For any of you guys at home that aren't familiar with the LPL, we do have the Colonel that comes in every now and then. He'll let us know what he thinks of the compositions. Right now, when it comes to the late game, he's believing in WE.
And WE just drafted such a very standard composition in the way it likes to play out these mid-game fights. A lot of the pressure is on eStar with the Renekton and Olaf running in, and you know you need to hit things like an amazing equalizer on 3 or 4 members if you do want these fights to even be slightly in your favor.
And look at immediately you see this Asol in the mid lane, just the priority. You just stand in the middle of all the minions, use those stars to just force the wave in. But let's first talk about these junglers here, because Wei going to be getting onto his blue buff after doing the wolves. On the meantime, Beishang moving up towards the top side of the map.
And I love this. We talked about Asol's very strong level 1, just able to push out the wave. Gonna get the ward down, and they already spot out where Wei is, giving him protection, and gonna let Beishang continuously track his path.
So now as Beishang moves up towards the top side, we do have a repeat match up in the top lane when it comes to this set. Oh, Cryin taking a huge chunk of damage there.
And that's what we see ever since the kind of mini rework of Asol. A lot stronger in these early game trades. Lost a lot of his power of moving around the map, though. You don't see Asol take phase rush anymore.
This is just going to be rinse and repeat. Every time Star Surge is available, he just goes for these short burst trades.
Yeah, cool thing that got added to the W is a bit of a movement speed that decays once your stars retract. So just going to do a good job of abusing that and getting this damage onto Cryin.
And I'm curious how this top lane matchup goes this time around, whether we see any difference in the item builds, because in game number 1, we saw it. Oh, hang on, Cryin. Oh no, Cryin's in so much trouble. Might have to flash as well as Teacherma gets over the wall. Olaf is here, but Wei doesn't have much damage yet. Beishang going to chase Cryin down. He's all out of summoner spells. He's slowed by the red buff. One more auto will do the job. Asol gets it for Teacherma. Now trying to chase down Wei as well. They're just going to get rid of the blast cone. They're going to move up top lane.
Yeah, great job by Beishang. We talked about how this comp is about moving towards your side lane, so they punish him in the mid lane, and now Xiaobai.
Uh-oh, the Croc's in a whole heap of trouble right now. Morgan happy to tank because he's got the Haymaker, and Teacherma not going to get the kill here this time. It's Beishang that gets the credit.
And now Morgan going to have a lot better of a time than last time around. Going to just be able to buy some of these tankier items early on and sit safely in this laning phase.
Oh, this feels so good for WE. This is how we know them to play. ShiauC doesn't quite get stunned up there. It's just going to be a trade in the bottom lane here, 2v2. Summoner's still all available on that bot side, though, so you don't expect too much to go off. Although they're going straight back in onto Missing. Stun comes out onto ShiauC. Missing is low, though. They don't have to use the heal. Wink now getting traded on by Jiumeng. Missing actually having to head back to base.
Yeah, we don't typically see this much action in the bot lane when we have things like Braum versus Nautilus. Oh my god.
Jiumeng for the second game in a row getting caught out in this bottom lane. Has to flash away. He's got to be so much more respectful of ShiauC.
And it's weird because you would think he'd have a better grasp of what the dredge line cooldown is. You know, he plays bot lane, but clearly doesn't. Does end up getting hooked, and mistakes from the weakest member of WE once again.
The weakest, but sometimes the strongest as well, because that's the thing about WE. You mentioned that Jiumeng often does step out of position, and it can be capitalized upon, but WE often will just play around him to make sure that he can actually survive these fights, that his mispositionings won't cause too much of an issue.
He does have the highest damage percent on his team, so still being a very key factor in these team fights.
Wei just missed his undertow, and now the pillar blocks the axe. That is really unfortunate for this Olaf. They're going to jump on in anyway, though, missing the target, but Unbreakable makes him hard to kill. That's going to mean that they have to back away from this one.
this is what I love about WE's comp, right? And this is just kind of a small taste of it. It's not the full 5v5. We just have a very easy formation, right? Braum just stands in front, opens up that shield. You have no real way of getting past him, and you're just going to have such a good time as Teacherma and later on Jiumeng dealing the damage.
So my big question, though, is, like, why are we fighting there in the mid lane at 5 minutes on the dot? Like, what is the goal here?
Well, eStar did have numbers advantage, right? Wink was making his way over. Jiumeng was in the bot side. I'm not sure if he showed, so I actually don't know if eStar knew that.
That's sort of what I mean, though, is like, why is Wink making his way over? It's not usual for the AD carries to be in mid lane at 5 minutes.
The wave was on WE's side of the lane regardless, so even if he went bot, not going to be able to safely pick up that CS. Not going to make those same mistakes we saw to Jiumeng.
Fair enough. And okay, I like it. Capitalizing on the map state. And I mean, that is one of the things that we've credited eStar with, is being able to play the map incredibly well, being able to read the situation. The question is, have they read this situation? Because Dragon's starting now by Beishang and Wei. He's here, but he's 1v4 right now.
Morgan
Equalizer across the entire team, and that's going to be missing. Locked up on top of it. He's still only level 3. Smite away onto the Dragon. Great stun coming out of Xiaobai. Denies the TP. It's going to be a 4v4 and missing the first target. Cryin burning down Teacherma. There's one for Wink as well. And Jiumeng has no summoners. He will be taken down here, and they gift it over to Wink.
And that's so great from eStar. I think especially by Xiaobai, canceling that TP is so clutch when they do have TP advantage. Didn't actually really see the craziness and how that skirmish really started out, but eStar backing off, feeling comfortable to re-engage. They do have the tools with the Nautilus, and picks like the Olaf right now are so strong, and eStar need to find these advantages now.
Yeah, this feels more like eStar from the regular season. This feels a little bit more like the team fight prowess that we've seen out of them time and time again. Like
you said, just kind of throwing those undertows. Good equalizer coming out. ShiauC being so aggressive with that dredge line, and Wink walking forward aggressively, but they're in a pretty good place with no ults, pretty much no ults available because no one's level 6 other than Cryin. And yeah, they got enough damage out from that equalizer, and everyone moving forward so aggressively, they're able to capitalize.
Really great stuff coming out from eStar, and now they're the ones in the lead. They've got just under 1,000 gold in their favor. And when we take a look across the board, a lot of that gold is coming out from Wei. He was kind of the superstar jungler earlier on in this split. He was the one everyone was talking about, and he's had a little bit of a quieter time more recently. But you can see that this Olaf, very much a comfort pick for him.
And it's really funny when we kept talking about the young miracles, you know, junglers. But for anyone who doesn't know, last split he was the sub. He was Xiaolong sub. He was not the starting jungler, was in 2018. That's a long time ago. So really impressive for him to come off the bench and do so well on this eStar squad.
I have to say, I've been incredibly impressed. And Xiaolong Bao as well has had a pretty good split for himself. Certainly not anything against Xiaolong Bao, but Wei proving his worth so far. Same can be said for Beishang, though. He's certainly not been the reason that his team has fallen behind.
I really want to see eStar look towards this Rift Herald.
Ooh. Stun onto ShiauC, won't quite go through. And Missing just consistently tanking these hooks here. Well, that's the thing, is Braum, you sort of just can't.
I was going to say, that's your job, right? Like, they're not going to do any damage, but right now, eStar at a very strong point. Equalizer is up. We've already mentioned how Wink has that BF sword. If you're going to get ahead...
Uh-oh. Wei is in trouble. Beishang going to force this Ragnarok out of him. Cryin has arrived as well, though. Equalizer will be available. Teacherma going to be joining in the skirmish from behind here. Xiaobai pulled back by Morgan. Great face breaker, but it might cost Morgan his life. Still has the flash available. Haymaker over the wall. Great play from Morgan. Now, though, eStar have control of the Herald.
Yeah, that was great from him using his ultimate to get closer to that wall, right, and then flash over. But eStar having the more early game focused composition needs this Herald.
Well, Equalizer onto the wave is going to mean it's very difficult to get anything done in the mid lane. eStar, as you rightly say, they get the Herald for themselves, and it's still 2 minutes until the Dragon, so WE really can't capitalize.
Yeah, for WE, I just want to see them get some defensive vision set up across the map so Beishang can go and counter the Herald push, whichever laner needs to.
But they're immediately going to go for this Herald in the top lane. Morgan, this happened to you last game as well, where everyone grouped up and went for the dive, but they're not going to be able to make the play happen. Not really great timing there, because the minion wave had already died by the time they arrived. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, Teacherma, you're in a whole heap of trouble. All of the CC comes in. Moisalite, oh, the rest of his team's here. He's actually going to survive. Oh, no, he's not. Moonlight Vigil comes on in. The rest of the squad is arriving, and Wink is here to hoover up some kills. Missing flashes over the wall. Great haymaker across them. Jiumeng, what are you doing? Why are you behind them right now? I guess it's opening up the team, that's why. Beishang moves in. Somehow WE have gone even here.
Yeah, somehow, and that was really confusing, especially from Jiumeng, but the key factor for eStar is the equalizer. They don't have that.
I mean, he didn't even have to use summoners. I was shouting his name in the fight, but I guess it worked? That was the weirdest fight I've seen in a long time.
I don't know, it was weirder than some of those fights we saw in Game 1 because eStar's comp is very Wombo reliant in the sense that you, other than Rumble, your only big damage is coming out from Wink and, you know, Renekton jumping in on this Dominus. We used the Dominus pretty early on, wasn't able to get on top of the members, and we saw Cryin flash in with just his Flame Spitter. So,
yeah.
not a lot of damage there.
He went very aggressive for that one. And Jiumeng gets rewarded. He gets himself a singular plate, and we'll be able to head back to base now. I'm just amazed that Teacherma survived for so long there. Like, he was the one that got caught out in the first place. Somehow lasted through pretty much the whole fight.
Yeah, pretty surprising and also very clutch, you know, going back to eStar for Wink to show up and really save Cryin after that aggressive flash.
And look at Wink's scoreline right now. He's really reaping the rewards of these early fights. 3-0-1 on Aphelios. We both said game number 1, Aphelios didn't look good. It didn't look like the damage that we know Aphelios for. But when you've got 3 kills at the 12-minute mark, that's when Aphelios is going to look real good.
And once again, we get a Mountain Soul. So on the side of WE, feeling good with your 3 tanks again. eStar, it's okay, right? Getting the shield is always nice.
eStar are completely grouped up here for the bottom side right now. Morgan happy to go for the fight. Ragnarok comes through, so does Dominus. Xiaobai on the front line, but he's pushed back onto the rest of his team. Haymaker Wei's in trouble, but it's Morgan that goes down first. They're focusing on to... Oh, look at the flame spitter over the wall from ShiauC there. Very nicely done. Beishang has found himself very lonely all of a sudden, and Wink is going to do the damage for Cryin to pick up the kill.
And the best part of that fight, once again, was Cryin's equalizer. Set up so well, laying on top of most of the members of WE.
And with a Herald here, this is going to be the tower going down in favor of eStars. And once again, these early skirmishes, everybody walking away on barely any HP. But this time, it's a more convincing lead here for eStar. 1,000 gold as we head towards the 15-minute mark.
And now with the map opening, I want to see the lane assignments from both of these teams because both very geared towards getting pressure in a 1-4 setup. Oh, but let's take a look at this replay once again. So WE actually the ones to aggress on Wei, but ultimate from Morgan, not exactly what you'd want, but look at that equalizer placement from Cryin, still flame spittering them over the wall, zoning them out, and it leaves Beishang in such an awkward position. eStar just able to close out this fight with another kill.
Beishang nearly grabbed himself a kill towards the end there. I'm kind of surprised he was able to do anything 1v4, but now they move up towards the top half of the map. Bear in mind, Rift Herald will respawn once again in a minute or 2. And the Dragon going to be up in 3. It's going to be 1 apiece, same as game number 1. And you know, we keep on talking about this statistic where WE haven't come back from a deficit of 15 in the entire split, but it's important to bear in mind that when the gold lead is small, that is the case. But eStars, they're 3,000 gold ahead right now. This is not a matter of statistics. This is nothing to do with WE. This is now a matter of how good eStar are at snowballing once they have the gold lead.
And their comp is on a bit of a timer, so they really need to show us an effective way of doing it. We did just see them get pressure through top, push out the wave, and now they're grouping up together to take vision. So I really like this from eStar. Ooh, just all of you going mid, and that equalizer is still up, so Teacherma needs to be careful.
Cryin has been absolutely one of the MVPs for eStar so far. These equalizers during the fights have set up so much success for him and his squad. Not going to be able to get too much done in the mid lane, though. They are going to have to back away. Beishang just going to be cancelling recalls with this pillar.
Yep, and we're going to see Wink and Xiaobai head back towards the side lane. Just going to clear out that vision, and we really are waiting for that next Rift Herald to come up, and you would expect that eStar should be able to get the vision for that objective first.
So we have Morgan and Xiaobai that are going to be on consistent side lane duty, as always. That's what you expect out of these two. And bear in mind that both of these top laners, they have very similar champion pools and they have very similar styles of play where they like to be off in the side lane facilitating the team rather than trying to find 1v1s for themselves.
This is really confusing though that first of all, great play from Xiaobai to back off and not allow himself to be dove, but eStar just going to pick up this Herald for free, so WE going to need to make something happen on the bottom half of the map.
And actually, in the meantime, Teacherma is recalling rather than moving to the bottom side to help his team out. Jiumeng actually gets a Chains of Corruption onto ShiauC. They're going to force the play on this one. Aftershock's in play, flashes away from the tower shot. Nothing really comes from it.
Yeah, and we did see Cryin start moving over, but instead going back to just clear out mid-wave.
I mean, I guess that's still a good trade for WE in the top lane. 2 ultimates for 2 summoner spells. They got the flash and the heal, but ultimately they are going to lose this tower because the whole squad is here for eStar, just waiting in the wings.
Yeah, they were going to lose it regardless just for the fact that WE were having to recall from the bottom half of the map. If Cryin wanted, he could have moved over at any time. Wei was already here, so positive trade for WE.
WE managing to at least get some summoners out of a rough situation, and they do get that tier 1 in the bottom side. So gold lead going to be shrunk ever so slightly, but it is just by a tiny little bit. eStar very much still the ones in control, and with Dragon spawning in 15 seconds, I like this Herald in the mid lane.
Ooh, you're right. Dropping this down, but all of WE are here.
But it will give them a lot of pressure to be able to rotate now if they do want to go for this Dragon. Herald gets the charge in. They didn't really make the quick rotation I was expecting, though.
No, but they do still have vision control bot side. Actually, WE do have a control ward behind them, so we want to see eStar take vision control now.
And look at the way that eStar plays around this Dragon. They are aware that WE wants to contest. They're just playing, as you say, with vision, making sure that they deny and try and make WE face check into them.
Yeah, taking this very slow when they probably could be a bit faster. Just have Wei, there we go, just have Wei start the Dragon, have the rest of the members waiting in the wings ready to follow up if WE do walk into the river.
But this is exactly what we've seen out of eStar in the past, is playing these objectives as safe as possible. Make sure that it's not going to be on a coin flip, there's no 50-50s. They make sure that the fight is not possible for the opponent.
And now we see Beishang heading up, and they're going to look to abuse Xiaobai. But I like the response from eStar. ShiauC already heading up.
He's on his way. Beishang clears the ward before getting on out of there. Because Wink is around as well. He could come up from that mid lane. And actually, this time Xiaobai goes for the Dominus. But Beishang shows on a ward. And that's going to mean he has to back away.
Now, once again, it's going to be about finding pressure in the side lane for the side of eStar. Just having Wei head up and ganking Xiaobai. Bring Cryin as well. Wink is going to have a fine time holding this mid wave. And if you can't find a pick, then just transferring your topside pressure into mid lane and dropping down this tier 1. On the side of WE, going to be a lot more about finding tempo just by bringing someone like Teacherma straight from base to the fight.
And let's have a moment here to kind of recap where we're at as we head towards the 20-minute mark here, because eStar are ahead in gold. It's going to be about 2,000 in their favor. They've got 1 extra Dragon as well as being 1 tower ahead. But when we look at the scoreboard itself, so much of this lead is in the pocket of Wink right now. He's already finished 2 crit items. He's gone for the Essence Reaver into a Hurricane. Compare him to Jiumeng. He's also got tier 2 boots. Jiumeng has his rubbish little leather boots, and he's got 1 item for himself. He's just about finished his cull. Yeah,
and we've been talking a lot about Cryin and his equalizers, but Wink has been dealing the damage necessary, positioning well in these fights. And right now, the state of the game, eStar are the ones who can make something happen. For the side of WE, you're pretty much just left with your hands in the air waiting for the next neutral objective to come up because there aren't a lot of proactive options in forcing eStar to come into you right now.
We were just talking about gold. Look at the difference between Wink and everyone else in the game. He's 1,500 gold ahead himself alone. That is half of the lead that eStar has in total.
And right now we see eStar using that gold well, just pushing out both sides. We see Cryin hovering around mid lane. They do finally bring this in to take this turret. So great from eStars, doing the play that we wanted, Joe.
Yeah, they clear out that mid lane, and now with all 3 tier 1s removed, they can start to push their vision line forward. So as we we seem to be in a bit of a slower game than we were in game number 1 here. Talk to me a little bit about scaling here, because WE are behind in the mid game, and it might only get worse because Missing gets caught, does jump away to his teammate. Does this get better for WE later in the game, or is this all about eStar right now?
Yes, it definitely gets better. Again, Aphelios sure will become a big monster in the later stage of the game, but Varus will be quite strong as well. You have Trundle's going to become very tanky, able to take stats from whoever he wants. Sett, going to be a great frontliner, does have that true damage in his kit as well. And the thing about WE's comp is it just scales up well as a unit, right? There's a formation there. There's a set way that you can play these team fights. For eStar, Olaf's going to fall off. Renekton's going to fall off. Rumble's really just going to become an ult bot. So everything is going to be on Wink's shoulders. So I'm feeling a lot better for the side of WE if this goes, 35, 40 minutes and gold is even.
It's still possible that that can happen, but we know eStar are a team that will push their advantages. They will look for more. And now that they've got through these tier 1s, how do they push that advantage? What's next on the chopping block?
So that's the tough thing for both teams right now, but especially eStar, because it's going to be very hard to use this side lane pressure, rotate over, and force down anything like a tier 2. It's a lot more about setting up vision in the enemy jungle and trying to find picks by making the members of WE rotate back and forth between these lanes. Or 2 is just waiting for the dragon to spawn, getting that vision set up first, and once again saying, hey, you need to walk into us, dropping the equalizer, having Wink lay out all that damage, so on and so forth.
And it feels like a lot of that pressure is on ShiauC in this game to be the engage for his team on this Nautilus. When you talk about finding picks, realistically, aside from just Wei running at you or Xiaobai finding a flank, Nautilus is the only one that can make that happen.
Yeah, but one thing we've seen eStar do really well is I actually really like the way they play out map states in the mid game, to where right now they can feel confident just leaving Wink in the mid lane, have Cryin, Wei, and even ShiauC head up over to a side like top and look for those picks necessary to start something like a Baron.
Well, it's WE that are making the map play right now, as they're going to find themselves a turret in the top lane with relatively nothing coming out from the side of eStar to
because Dragon is up in 5 seconds, Munchables.
Ah, I see. It's
but
all clear to me now. But you know what? WE are like, sod the Dragons. You can have a third one. We want a tier 2 in the top lane. Wei and Wink are going to be the ones to clear that. Oh, no. Ooh. In the meantime, good flash from Jiumeng. Flash for flash in the mid lane. Dragon for tier 2.
And still, this is a good play by WE. It gets better for them the longer this game goes. So say, hey, you can have another Mountain Drake. We feel fine just getting some gold into our pockets, but ooh, we start collapsing.
Beishang and Teacherma trying to get on out of here. There's no one heading them off, though. That means they will walk away from this one. So ultimately, I mean, I can't. Do you think that's an even trade? Is a tier 2 in the top lane worth it to put eStar on Dragon Soul? Or to put on Soul Point?
WE wouldn't be able to realistically take that fight, honestly. If eStar execute correctly, they should come out ahead. So I like the play they made, especially the fact they didn't just get one tower, right? They got 2. They extend the game. And now, unless eStar have the confidence to force this Baron, they're left waiting for the next dragon.
And this has been one of the things about eStar is they don't like going for objectives when it's risky. This is why their game time is longer than average, because they want to make sure it's absolutely safe.
They're not going to make a play like we saw WE last game of just going straight onto the Baron. But something they could try to do is, like we said, have... Ooh, okay, nothing happening. I'm getting excited for no reason. But have Xiaobai push up that top lane, keep having Wink get those soft resets at mid, and try to pressure someone on the top half of the map coming into you, creating that numbers advantage. But
I want to see him go for this.
We have Aphelios.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe they do it.
And Olaf. Olaf can pretty much solo Baron. Like, they have a comp that can definitely force this play. The question is, are they confident enough? Bear in mind, this is a rookie squad. They're in playoffs here, in the 5th seed. There's a lot of pressure on this team.
Well, we're going to see once again.
They're just going to be trying to find a pick. Equalizer.
Well,
that was anticlimactic.
And now eStar shouldn't be able to do anything for the next, however many minutes that Rumble doesn't have that cooldown.
Pretty much. And maybe WE have an opportunity here to wrestle a bit of map control for themselves, because we've just talked about it. eStar are not a team that's going to try and fight you when it's not optimal. They're not a team that's going to fight you without cooldowns. recalls across the board here from eStar. And look, WE take complete control.
I mean, the great thing about WE as well is, right, we keep setting up this side lane play that they could try to make by baiting out the members of WE. They could even try to set up maybe a freeze on their side of the map and force someone from WE to push on overextend. But if you're WE, as long as they're not taking Baron or Dragon Soul, you're fine. It doesn't matter. You don't have to leave your side, you know, of the rift.
Well, we've got a very different game 2 here to what we had in game number 1, because game number 1 was pretty much a bloodbath right from the start, fight after fight after fight. WE got a lead, and then they just ran away with things. Game number 2 here, eStar are the ones that got the early lead. eStar are the ones on Soul Point, and it's a much more calculated way of playing League of Legends.
That's the great thing for eStar, though, because it definitely feels like this game is at their tempo. Yeah. At the same time, though, WE have drafted a comp that will do well in this situation, so it's going to be interesting to see, you know, what's better. Is it the fact that eStar have experience in these types of situations, or is it just, you know, straight up the rules of League of Legends, the logic that these champions in this fundamental formation should work out better?
And that's the question, right? Have WE got so many styles available to them? One of the biggest criticisms was that they didn't have multiple styles, that they only played one way. And as you rightly say, they said on Twitter they've not showed everything yet.
I love that they did that too. I mean, I guess Chinese teams aren't checking Twitter, but still, you're putting it out there in the sphere, the public sphere.
It's kind of hilarious, but there you go. I love the confidence of it, though. Just saying, hey, don't underestimate us. Wei still has Ragnarok available. Just going to be lobbing axes till the break of dawn here as Morgan makes his way on up. Bear in mind, Xiaobai still in that bottom lane split pushing.
Yep, so just trying to get that advantage in the bottom side. eStar still not able to find a way to set up these picks, so it's going to be a lot more about this dragon.
Ooh, they can collapse onto Xiaobai here. In fact, Morgan and Xiaobai going to both come in from the side. ShiauC has gone way too deep on this one. He's taken out immediately. Wink has a ton of damage on Aphelios, so they need to be careful how far WE pushes on forwards here. Cryin still has Equalizer.
Yeah, but you're still taking a 4v5.
Wei's in trouble here. Star Surge isn't quite going to land, but that's half of his health. 15 seconds on Dragon. With ShiauC dead, surely WE get an objective here.
WE need to just force this fight. They need to feel confident that at this point with the 5v4 that they can win out. eStar having no real engage.
Oh no, Wei's in trouble. Ragnarok having to be used here. I think he can 1v1 Morgan, honestly. He is Olaf at the end of the day. There goes the Haymaker. Showstopper. Can't finish it because there's a stopwatch. Now Xiaobai gets stunned on up. WE actually falling behind in this fight. Cryin stopped from getting back on in. Wei still low here. And WE, despite losing a member, despite being 4v5, are confident enough to start dragging.
Xiaobai has TP though, Munch. eStar can keep going.
ShiauC goes on in. He's going to be stunned up for days, though. Stoneplay is not going to be enough to save him. Wink. Again, the ult's just not really doing enough. Xiaobai's teleported in behind the rest of the team. Jiumeng, though, flashes to the back of the pit. Wei is going to go down. Double kill for Teacherma. There's one for Jiumeng. Cryin can't get away. Neither can Wink. And the fight goes to WE.
WE are front-to-back team fighting, Munch. What is this? This is not a style we've seen WE do well. On the other side of that, eStar kind of miscoordinating with that Renekton flank.
WE just won a 4 versus 5 against eStar right there. And we know this is a bold team. They're not afraid to start the Baron.
At the same time, though, eStar forcing a 4v4 with Renekton TPing over to the red buff. But great job by WE having the, like you said, being bold enough to be willing to take that fight. They didn't really have any other option. No. But still, they did it. They came out on top. They get the objective.
They had the option of like not just forcing the dragon immediately, but I guess they lose soul at that point.
That is true, right? And at the same time, eStar would still have vision behind them. I don't know if they'd be able to, know that into factoring that into their plans, but look at the mini-map right now. Xiaobai is still not here, so it is a 4v4, and just great zoning coming out from Beishang. Teacherma doing his job with his W, and all the members of WE right now. Great flash from Jiumeng right there. Just able to turn on the way after that flash, and now you have a 4v2 team fight. Very easy to finish it up. And now you're the ones with the Baron. You're the ones with the better team fight right now.
Oh, we mentioned the positioning from Jiumeng earlier on, and we mentioned it. It feels like that's become a laning phase issue only, because in these fights, his Varus positioning, his damage output has been exceptional.
Well, and this is why during the regular season we talked a lot about how WE plays to prop up their weakness and not, you know, emphasize their strength. Because you look at the way these fights are happening, everyone is around Jiumeng, right?
Yeah.
At all times, he has 4 people around him. Still, great flash in that last play, because had he gotten deleted, could have been completely different.
And Wei could have finished him. Wei flashed forward to try and get that kill. But you mentioned scaling advantage in favor of WE when it comes to this Varus, when it comes to this Aurelion Sol. They are very much getting to that point. There's 3 items on the Varus, nearly got the GA as well. And Teacherma, he's got himself 3 items. His Rod of Ages is fully stacked. Now, WE have this Baron to work with, and they're going to start to siege onto these tier 2s.
And they don't have the same wave clear they did last time with no Corki in the composition. It's really going to be about eStar trying to force an engage onto WE, or they're just going to be able to whittle down these turrets.
And in the meantime, you got Teacherma in the mid lane. This is going to be a 4-1 push, and WE muscle their way into the tier 2 here. In the meantime, if we take a look over towards the mid lane, Teacherma continues to siege. He's got the cannon minions, and Wei can't do a whole lot about it. Wei might be able to find a flank on the mid lane potentially, but I don't know if that's ever going to happen.
I mean, when you're already in this position...
Oh my days, the trading out of Morgan, the haymaker onto Cryin.
He just has so much HP. It's gonna build up that nice big old shield, gonna lay out all that damage.
This is a changed WE. This is an evolved WE here. They were behind at 15 minutes for the 2nd time in this series, and they are winning for the 2nd time in this series. Now a hook onto Morgan.
Ooh.
Equalizer across the team. Maybe this is the fight. Maybe eStar can turn things around. Missing, blocking a lot of damage. Morgan, haymaker onto the team. It's time to back away from this one. ShiauC's low. They're not going to keep pushing on. WE, though, they're not going anywhere just yet.
Well, and that last fight is why we set up, okay, Wink might be the big damage dealer for this team, but if eStar want to find any type of a kill, it really relies on Cryan's Equalizer hitting 3 or 4 key members from WE, keeping them out from going into the fights.
Right, so important to mention as well, Dragon's up in a minute, so that could very much be the next big focal point on the map. Morgan, the only casualty of that last fight, and ultimately, they did take an inhib tower, so long as Morgan's back up in time for them to set up for this Dragon, probably still worthwhile for WE here. Remember though, eStar have 3 Dragons already. This would be Sol if they're able to win the next fight.
Yep, WE just need to constantly prioritize this Dragon so eStar don't get it. Even if something like Baron is open, I feel like WE just need to say, hey, it doesn't matter. Everything right now is about denying the Sol from eStar and keeping our hold on the lead of the game.
I just want to see a little bit more from eStar here, Lyric. They came into the split with such low expectations across the board. You know, I don't think people expected them to be just awful necessarily, but they weren't expected to be a top 2 team by the end of week 3, you know? And we're not really seeing that same mojo now. We're not seeing the same pizzazz that they brought to the league all those weeks ago.
No, it feels like WE did a great job in answering them, and now you're in a hard place where it feels like Xiaobai needs to find a way onto Jiumeng with the Equalizer hitting as well, while Wink's whittling down the front line.
This Dragon's already gone, there's no way, and now voice select across the whole team. Teacherma goes massive in with the showstopper. Haymaker will come through, flash for the kill onto Wink, and that is huge for WE. Ragnarok defensively, but Cryin, the next target. Pillars on cooldown, he has to flash as well. Summoners across the board, and WE on Sol point.
And right now, eStar have no wave clear. If WE push with a minion wave, eStar have no real way of stopping them from taking down a turret and getting an inhibitor.
Bear in mind, the bottom inhibitor is wide open already. That tower already fell earlier on in the game. They can go for this mid inhib. They can rotate down bot. There's a huge minion wave crashing in the top side at the same time.
Yeah, so WE just having a very easy way of taking both of these. Just back off now, you're fine. Then you can start setting up towards that Baron.
And then we'll be able to walk away. I wasn't sure. Wei looked like he wanted to chase that one, but they're just going to head out. Let's take another look.
And we just see here, Teacherma hitting everyone with this big AoE combo. The Equalizer getting on no one, sure it zones off the rest of your carries, but they're not taking any damage. Morgan doing such a great job on that backline, and now Beishang just able to run in. Doesn't matter if you get any more kills because the wave clear from eStar is gone.
And Morgan being able to get that kill onto Wink. We've been talking about Wink all game long, how he's the primary damage source here for eStar. If Morgan can just zone him out of the fight, just stop him getting his damage out, suddenly these fights look very one-sided.
What I want to see now is, does WE have the boldness that they did last game to just start this Baron and trust in Morgan to use his ultimate on Wei? But Wei does have Ragnarok this time. Or do they play the patient game? No, hey, we have 2 inhibitors in mid and bot. We can just wait for those minions to push in, pull them apart, force out Xiaobai's TP, do it again.
I've cast a lot of WE this split, and I'm going to say it's probably option A as they go straight onto Wei here. Denies the stun with the Ragnarok. But you mentioned that cooldown stopping the showstopper. Well, Morgan can completely deny Wei now if he wants to. And I expect WE to start the Baron.
I want to see WE make that macro dance.
They're not doing it. They're not interested in the macro dance. Missing is here. They start this Baron off. Wei has to come in to try and contest. Teleport out from Xiaobai. That's forced, as you say. They're going to do the macro dance. They've backed away from the Baron. They've forced the TP. Can they escape the fight, though? Xiaobai's in the backline. They're just going to collapse onto the Croc. Their showstopper onto ShiauC. In the meantime, Xiaobai is burnt down, though. Barely surviving. ShiauC the next target. Everyone's still up from WE. Teacherma onto Wing. There's another one. Varus with a triple. Jiumeng steps up for the quadra, and Wei has nowhere to run. Pillar to knock him up, gets the slow, Star Surge to finish it, and surely they gift over the pentakill to Jiumeng.
What an amazing game from the whole team of WE, but Jiumeng being able to pick up that pentakill is massive. WE 2-0 lead, Munch.
Now this is the WE I've dreamed of. This is the team changing their styles as they come into playoffs. People criticize the champion pools. They criticize one-dimensional play. No longer, says WE, as they take a second game.
We saw WE have the gold deficit, a pretty telling gold deficit as well, 2,000 to 3,000, and they're still able to come out ahead in these fights.
And it's the team fighting. And on Aurelion Sol, Teacherma flashing forward in these fights, going so aggressive. Obviously has the Zhonya's, but as you worded it earlier on, it's the trust between these team members. It's the trust that the rest of the squad is on the same page and will go for the play.
The thing I love is the discipline too, because right, we talked about this formation that they need to hold with Trundle, Braum in the front, Aurelion Sol in the middle, Varus in the back, and you know, wherever Morgan needs a change depending on the situation. But they did it every time. We always saw Asol dealing all the damage in the CC. Jiumeng always in a good position, even picking up a pentakill. And WE are, I love the way you word it, they're just true bros. They're a true team.
They are the bro squad. As soon as one person goes in, the rest are going no matter what. And it's kind of like that old mentality, that old debate of like, even if the call is wrong, you go for it as a team. That is WE in a nutshell.
It's funny because that has also been eStar all split long, but not today.
It doesn't feel like eStar are quite able to make these plays happen, but it doesn't necessarily feel like they're not on the same page. It feels like as a group, they are nervous to make these plays. They are nervous to go for the fight that, I mean, Wei especially on this Olaf. I'm used to Wei on Olaf just hitting that Ragnarok and charging people down. That's not what we've seen here.
Well, I also feel like it's a byproduct of the draft. So great job to WE's coaching staff and especially Domo coming over from AHQ. Done a great job with this team. And it feels like despite the fact that WE do scale up relatively well into these team fights, they don't really lose out that much in the early game. And by mid-game, their comp comes online very strong.
In the regular split, they won 0% of games that they were behind at 15 minutes. That is no longer the case. Twice now in this series, they have been behind both games at 15 minutes. Not a massive lead, bear in mind, but a lead nonetheless. They're able to find their way back into these games. Cryin actually topping the damage there.
Not surprising. He was the key member in this composition.
I was surprised.
Okay, well, not surprising. Okay, much. Kind of surprising, but still. He was the key member in this composition. If they wanted to win any of these fights, he would need to land a massive equalizer. He had a couple of them, but also had some that just didn't hit the mark. And The one big play to eStars for me, which really was the disappointing one, was when they did try to go for that dragon fight with Xiaobai TPing on the flank, but he was just so far from the rest of the team. By the time he got there, it was like, oh, well, our numbers advantage is gone.
Yeah, it feels like this matchup, I was so excited coming into this series because the way that these two teams play is so similar. And we are seeing that this rookie squad of eStar now kind of being pushed to their limits. They're 2-0 down in a best-of-5. At this point, they've got a long way if they want to win this series out. And my big question is, what else do they have in the tank? Because WE have proven now that they have multiple styles. The question is, does eStar?
Well, and the thing I love about your point is the 0-2 down, because me and Hysterics were talking about this, that I don't think playoffs should be that impactful when it is online. So even if you do have a rookie squad, it should make a big difference. But when you are 0-2 down, doesn't matter if you're online, offline, no matter what. Now the pressure is on.
The pressure is very much on the shoulders of eStar. We'll see if they can start a comeback after the break or whether WE are going to close things out. We'll have